Hi, I'm Nancy Reyner, author of Acrylic Illuminations, Reflective and Luminous Acrylic Painting Techniques. I'll be demonstrating one of the 50 techniques in the book. The techniques create special painting effects using refraction, reflection, and using light for eye-catching ways. These techniques can be used in several ways in a painting, as backgrounds, in specific selected areas, in separate layers, or if worked fully, can create a painting in itself. This is technique 43, making a metallic drawing surface. The materials you're going to need is a painting surface, some kind of a substrate. This is a hardboard that's primed with gesso. You can do this on canvas, you can do this on any surface. And you'll need either an iridescent paint or a metallic paint that we're going to mix with matte medium. Or you can use metallic powder that you can mix with the matte medium. Or, there's too many choices, that's the problem. Or you can use a metallic paint that has particles in it that are going to create a tooth that will work by itself with drawing materials. And I'll demonstrate that. I have micaceous iron oxide is one example of a fabulous iridescent paint that by itself makes a beautiful drawing surface. In addition to those and your substrate, you'll need a mixing knife. Here it is. Palette knife or mixing knife, and either a palette or cups and lids to make the mixture. And you'll need a brush or rag to apply it to your substrate. And then the usual painting materials, bucket of water, and paper towels. You'll also need drawing materials. And you know, there's quite a range of drawing materials. There's, this is chalk pastel, and there's colored pencils, there's charcoal, water-soluble pencils, oil pastels. There's a whole range of drawing materials. And what we're trying to do is create a surface that has enough tooth that will show off these drawing materials. If a surface is too slick and glossy, then you can try some of the materials on top and they just kind of glide off and they don't really stick. So we're trying to give it a tooth. Now, when you have metal paint or iridescent paint, it needs to have access to the light for its reflection. And so working with matte medium, matte medium has that white powder, matting agent in it. Matte medium is something you don't want to use with iridescent paints. However, it's the only way we can get a grit, so we're going to compromise. This is the end result of the technique. It still has quite a lovely reflection to it. It's very beautiful. It's not as highly reflective or glossy as if I used, this is actually iridescent copper paint with matte medium. If I used the plain iridescent copper paint, it would be much more glossy and reflective, but it wouldn't handle drawing materials on there. And you can see that if I take one of these chalk pastels, it's just luscious and gorgeous. And this would not look like that if it was just plain copper paint. So we're kind of compromising. We're cutting the glare and the gloss of the iridescent paints a bit and putting the matte medium in there. There's another product. When I wrote the book, I really wanted to stick with generic products as much as possible. So I would say gloss medium instead of a particular, like Golden's polymer medium gloss. And there is one product that Golden makes that I don't find anywhere else. It could be sometimes they call it a clear gesso. Anything that has a grit in it that's clear, you can use that instead of the matte medium in the mixture. But there is one product that I find really works well, and it doesn't cut the glare as much. And that's Golden's acrylic ground for pastel. But for the book, I'm using the matte medium because it's a lot easier to find in some stores, and some other countries don't even sell Golden, so that's why I'm trying to. Okay, so again, what we need is our substrate, and then your decision, your choice of how you're going to, what you're going to use to make your mixture. And I'll go through the choices again. But let's just to look at micaceous iron oxide. This one particular product, you could just take it as is and apply it, and you don't have to apply it thickly, just thinly, and it has quite a beautiful quality to it. Here it is dry. Do you see that? It's like a beautiful silver gray black. And this makes by itself, so you basically apply it with your knife, let it dry overnight, and then I'll take the same blue and maybe a red. You can see it just is a gorgeous by itself. So that's easy. And then we could say, well, that's the end of the demonstration. Just grab micaceous iron oxide. But there's other ways to work with this type of grit with a metallic flavor to it. I'm going to start with this piece of hardboard here, and I'm going to take some jars and put it down underneath, because if this had sides on it, that by itself would raise from the level of the table, and I like to prop everything up so I have room to go off the sides. And now I'm going to make my metallic mixture with a grit. So I could use these lovely metallic pigments, but you really need to be careful. They're ground so fine that the powder, the fineness of powder is toxic. And so you need to wear a mask when you use this. So instead of in front of you, shaking it out and creating this dust cloud, I'm going to suggest it as an option, but for this demonstration, I'm going to use an iridescent copper light fluid paint. I could use a thick, heavy-bodied metallic paint. I could use the bronze, the gold, but so there's lots of choices. But here I'm just choosing the iridescent copper light. And in my mixture, let's see, I could use these cups and lids and then store it for later. But for this demonstration, I'll just put it right on this palette paper here. What you can do is test it for yourself, is start with a 1-to-1 mixture, 1 part of your paint. And again, if I just used the paint by itself, it wouldn't give me the grit. So now I need something for grit. And if you do have access to this one, I would definitely use this one for the grit. This one dries pretty much clear with a grit. It's a little translucent, but instead, I'm going to use matte medium. And that's about 1-to-1, and I'll mix it up. And in this case, I'm going to mix it very well. And then I found that I could apply it with the knife for texture, but I found that it makes, for me, a better drawing surface if I take a nice, flat, smooth brush and apply it thinly. Over the board. So it really helps when it is propped up from the table. I can really move out. And it is good to make it in the cup because then you have the extra. Now, it's got some streaks to it, so when this dries, I could do a second coat. Or I could blow dry it now to make it dry fast and then put a second coat on. And it ends up looking like this. So it really changes from wet to dry. And so this is the wet one. Here's the dry. And now I could try, here's a colored pencil. Here's charcoal. And here's these chalk pastels. And it really takes the drawing materials very well. Right now, the drawing materials are pretty delicate. And if you wanted to seal them, the best way to do it is to get a spray and just spray it. But I like to do something else. This is polymer medium gloss. And what I like to do is just squirt out a good amount of it over the whole thing. Using a clean knife, I'm going to glide over. So I'm being very careful. You don't hear me scraping the bottom. I'm gliding over. If you don't have enough product, it's easy to hit the bottom. So put enough on. Remember, acrylic shrinks by 30% down, so you don't have to worry about it looking gloppy. But if you're really careful, you can spread it out without affecting the drawing materials. And then, so I'll spread that out so it's nice and smooth. And then I let it dry. And this white medium, polymer medium gloss turns clear. And then it's sealed. And then I can glaze or paint or collage or do anything I want on it without the drawing materials smearing. Spraying is a really good way to do it, but I like to avoid spraying because it's often toxic. So I like to do this, and it's really quick. It'll dry in a couple hours. Thanks, guys. Thank you.